Man, I hope I get to do some editing on this because the phone just reached its maximum size. Anyway, there's a checkbox saying the petitioner's out-of-state or federal conviction set out above is not substantially similar to a North Carolina reportable conviction as defined in blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it's not. There is nothing in North Carolina law that corresponds to the federal law as applied to me. Now, this gets very, very complicated. But it's understandable to anybody who thinks or knows how to think. Now, I also filed a motion for discovery and evidentiary hearing, which is where you get to sit in front of a judge and talk about the evidence. All right, you got to do that. So I'm asking for the description of the image, which I have not been able to get from the pubic offender's office, which is illegal. They're supposed to give that stuff to me, and which I couldn't get because the federal judge dismissed my petition before discovery and evidentiary hearing. And so I want to see the description. I'm also asking to get the image for the court. I would love to have it for myself, but I was convicted for receiving it because if I showed it to you, you would never in a billion years think, oh, that's child pornography. Never. No rational or even sane person could do it. If it were possible to get this in front of a judge, which it isn't by design in federal law, the judge would be able to figure this out in about 500 milliseconds. So, now, part of the reason here is that, I've got my exhibits, which I was very happy to print out in color. By the way, I had access to all of this in prison. But of course, how could I possibly make screenshots of videos? I couldn't. Now, in prison, they don't even have R-rated films, and there's a prohibition of any material, even if it's text, that is about being mean to children. Despite this, I was able to find well over 600 images, coincidentally about the number that I estimated at my arraignment after I found out what they were talking about, which are as or more violative of the law than the pled image. More than 600. That's enough for an enhancement. Oh boy, that's a lot of really bad stuff in the prison library. But there was nothing I could do with that information. So, first let's take North Carolina law. Blah, 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 blah. The trier of fact may for the participant in sexual activity. Fine. There was no sexual activity there. And that's the ordinary meaning of words. No one, not completely psychotic, could misinterpret that. Very, very clear. This is the entire North Carolina statute. All right? I can't show you the entire federal statute, but because it has many, many chapters. But here is the one where they just define things Humpty Dumpty style. Just the definitions. 1 page, 2 page, and maybe a paragraph. Okay? So it has a concept which called sexually explicit conduct, which of course does not mean conduct that's sexual, or it does not mean sexual, nor does it mean explicit, nor does it even mean conduct, but they can define anything that they want. The relative part is 2256 2A, and then there's 1 through 5. Except as provided in subparagraph B, sexually explicit conduct means actual or simulated. 1. Sexual intercourse, including genital, oral genital, anal genital, or oral anal, whether between persons of the same or opposite sex. Clear enough. That's not further redefined. We can all agree that that would be child pornography, can't we? And would be bad, because you've done something really bad to a child. 2, bestiality. Okay. Yeah. 3, masturbation. Okay. None of these present in the pled image, my pled image. 4, lascivious exhibition of the anus, genitals, or pubic area of any person. Well, okay, anus and genitals are pretty clear, but what's pubic area? Does that mean even if you're wearing clothes? Because people have been convicted for having pictures of minors, not necessarily children, they could be 17, who are completely clothed and nothing is showing, if somebody thinks it's sexually suggestive. Anyway, completely does not apply to me. Okay, that was 5. The only one that could possibly apply is 4, sadistic or masochistic abuse. And the only way that could apply to the pled image is that there were some ropes. I sort of remember the image. I mean, if your life is on the line, it's kind of important to force your brain to do stuff, even if it's probably damaged due to serious sleep deprivation, which I couldn't do anything about. It's not at all clear. Maybe somebody thought that the ropes, which were thick, were tied to her wrists. Maybe someone thought that even though she appeared completely bored and neutral, that was sadistic or masochistic. All right, so in prison, I won't tell the complete story about how I found all this out in prison, but because it's a long one, maybe I'll do this. So, here are some screenshots from the movie Unbreakable. Snooze-worthy movie, by the way, but it was useful for me. This is after the Bruce Willis character goes into the home invasion. And here it is. You've got 2 people down here, clearly identified as children, and they're tied up, and look at those cords digging into the bloody skin. So, this is constitutionally protected. It's widely distributed, even in prisons, and it's way, way worse than even the most absurd interpretation of the pled image. All right. Instructions not included. Now, this is actually a very sweet film. I recommended it to my friend, the Da Nang kid, in prison, and he said it made him cry, and it really is sweet. It's Mexican-American. I think if it weren't Mexican, it would be maudlin or mawkish, but it comes out just right and totally sweet and hits the right stuff. So here's the father with a snarling dog, and he's trying to toughen up his 12-year-old son. So he puts spiders on him and has the dog go snarl at him. And you know, he's laughing because he's doing this, and he's having a good time. And this produces a phobia in the boy over dogs, and so throughout the film, the snarling dog is used as a symbol for all his fears. But it really is a sweet film. I felt kind of bad about including this because it is such a sweet film. But look, you Americans didn't care about this, and my life has been destroyed. I am owed. Third one, X-Men: The Last Stand. This is the shape-changing mutant. It begins with an M. I'm not sure what it is. So she's shape-changed into this little girl. And oh, look, there's a bare midriff here. So it's a little bit sexualized, isn't it? And her wrists are clearly bound to this. Again, perfectly legal. If I'm guilty, they're guilty. And therefore, the law as applied to me is unconstitutionally overbroad. But for the current purposes, more importantly, there's nothing in North Carolina to prohibit this. Now, this one is interesting because I did get this in prison in an issue of Newsweek. And here's what is going on. This girl, the one with the bare breast, is 10 years old, according to the article. She's 7. I don't know about the other kids. It doesn't really matter. What's happening here is that the woman, who is probably her mother, has taken this stone and heated it over an open fire so that it's really hot, and taken it in and is forcing it against this 10-year-old's breast. And look, she's not very happy at it. And her sister, her little sister over here, is in abject horror. All right, so, and this is real. This is not a movie. This happens in Cameroon. Mothers believe that this will delay the onset of puberty. Much the same way that they give puberty-blocking drugs to transgender kids, very much the same thing. But, of course, it doesn't work. It's stupid. It's cruel. It's way more sadistic than anything in the Pled image. And so, this is my petition. I'm not going to talk any more about the petition because if you haven't gotten it by now, again, there is no point. And so that's what I was convicted for. Now, they claimed a bunch of other images. I never saw them. They had helpful names like 10.jpg. It was never presented to me. But look, why would they pick one that was so bad if they had a better one? Also, when the North Carolina cops arrested me, and actually I had no real problem with their professionalism. They didn't point guns at me or anything. They were very polite. All right, so within my 2 days or whatever it is they have to charge me. The first charge they gave me had bail set at $2 million. Then they gave me another charge, a supplemental one, which increased it to $3 million. Now, the average bail for this sort of thing is $50,000. $3 million is way unconstitutional. So this says in an instant, I think, that the state charges were intended to be bogus. All they were intended to do was keep me in prison or keep me in jail and not be able to find out about anything legal until the case went federal. Now, maybe I'll have to do another video about all the evidence I have that this was completely bogus. Even the federal charge that I was just targeted for political speech, like what I'm doing now. Gee, I haven't stopped, have I? After all, I am Bonadic. Now, for this behavior, a fine, proud leftist on Facebook, which I'm not allowed to use anymore, called me a coward because, hey. And he also suggested that I get involved with some group, and they straighten me right up, I guess. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to continue to do this stuff, even though Americans don't care. They don't care at all. They don't know about this stuff. And they don't know because they didn't look for it. And they didn't look for it because they didn't care. And they didn't care because it would be too scary to contemplate. All right, so I can't talk with these prison teeth. And that leads me to another ramble, because I was actually able to get the federal government to pay for the removal of one tooth. And the dentist said, man, I really hope they pay for dentures. And I just laughed. Because here's a guy, fairly smart enough to become a dentist. That's pretty smart, okay? It's not like a mathematician or anything, but you got to have something on the ball to be a dentist. And it was the finest, cleanest, easiest extraction I've ever had in my life. So he was good at his job. And he has absolutely no clue about what's happening in his country. None whatsoever. And guess what, American people? Go take a look in the mirror. Come back here. There's a comment section right below. And tell me that you knew any of this. Tell me that you care about any of this. Tell me what you've done about this, how you voted, for whom you voted, and why, based on the issues. I'm all ears about this. But if you haven't done anything, don't tell me what you're going to do. Don't tell me what your plans are. Don't tell me that you care. Don't tell me who you're gonna vote for, what you're gonna do. Don't tell me somebody has to do something. I know more about the evils of the criminally unjust system than probably any 5 lawyers you can name, you can even contemplate. I am risking being sent back to prison for the rest of my life to tell you about this. Now look at the number of subscribers I have. Tell me with a straight face that America cares.